Welcome to DreamSpeak. We want to say a big thank you to our listeners in Loveland, Colorado, Montclair, New Jersey, Kailua Kona, Hawaii, Katlahong, South Africa, Nairobi, Kenya, and Quezon City, Philippines. Thank you so much for listening. We couldn't do it without you.
Hi, dreamers. Thank you for learning with us today on DreamSpeak. I'm Rika.
And I'm Thomas.
And this is the podcast about dreams that teaches you a complete system to help you listen to your dreams and get the guidance they're providing you every day.
Want to flip flapjacks with Elon Musk? Ever had the urge to play dominos with Mark Zuckerberg? How about pounding tent stakes with Jeff Bezos' assistant? In this dream, find out what happens when a group of lovable billionaire overlords take you camping for the weekend.
Thomas, you had a dream a few weeks ago, but it's been on your mind, and so we thought we would present this for our podcast. Okay, we can start again.
No, that's not bad.
Oh. So, why don't you tell us about it?
So, in this dream, I was invited on a camping trip that was hosted by more than one billionaire. It was definitely hosted by Jeff Bezos, but it might have been hosted by another billionaire that I don't remember as well. And this is because my brother knew them. And so I guess they were acquaintances or friends, and he got them to invite me. And then the whole dream takes place in this underground warehouse that I thought was a bunker, because when we got underway on this trip and we were in like Jeeps or something, and we drove underground, it wasn't a bunker. It was like a giant private REI. They had so much camping equipment that it was like a full-blown store. And I was just invited to take whatever it is that I wanted. And the idea was that I was equipping myself for this camping trip. But the dream never got beyond the warehouse. And so the action of the dream was I had a shopping cart, just like you would at a store. And I was driving around methodically from one very organized section to the other. It was laid out just like a retail store. And I was just thinking through all of our camping equipment, because we love to camp, and thinking, could I possibly ever use this equipment? And if there was any remote possibility, I just put it in my cart. And I remember an image of me kind of looking at my cart, and it was completely flat level. It had filled the entire thing with small to medium camping equipment, just completely piled this up. And then I was going to do more because I hadn't gotten through the whole store, so to speak. And at that moment, I think, was when I stopped and had a realization. I stepped away from the cart for a moment, and I didn't even see anyone else in there. But I got this subtle feeling of anxiety, and it was emotional input for me. It was a real feeling that I feel on a regular basis. It's in my heart chakra, and it was trying to teach me something, because at that point, I started understanding things intuitively because of that emotional input. And I think that was kind of the end of the dream. Nothing happened beyond that. It was just the shopping.
Where should we start? I'm curious, you said your brother was friends with these billionaires. And so I'm really wondering what that has to do with this dream. Maybe we should talk about his qualities.
That's an awesome idea. Dear listeners, please go back and listen to episode 1 of the Dream Speak podcast. Do you remember what it's about?
No.
Gas, wine, and celebrities.
Oh, yeah, your brother was in that one.
Gasoline was on sale.
Right.
Which is, it's ridiculous. But yeah, it wasn't actually on sale. That was the whole point, was gasoline wasn't on sale. But my brother's beautiful mindset made him feel like it was on sale.
Oh, yeah, it was his mindset of abundance. That was his quality in the dream.
Exactly. And I think that still applies. So his attitude of abundance is something that he still represents for me. It's openness. It's deep compassion and willingness to really be there for people. And the message of episode 1 was that he is an example for me of, if you give, you receive even more. Mm-hmm. You can refill your metaphorical gas tank by giving.
Right.
Not by just being like hoarding gasoline.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and in this dream, you really felt like you were hoarding.
Oh, yeah.
You just wanted to take and take, like you might run out of or like you just wanted to take advantage of these people.
That's right. Of these billionaires.
Yeah.
That's absolutely right. And it wasn't done maliciously. The emotional vibration was it was done out of a spirit of lack. It was because I knew that the monetary value of this made absolutely no difference to them. It was like losing a nickel, even
And
though
how
I had
much?
thousands of dollars worth of camping equipment.
Okay.
Literally, it would be to them like the change in their pocket fell on the ground. Imperceptible.
So you felt, why not?
Entitled.
Yeah.
I felt entitled.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, they must be showing up in your life somehow, but you didn't feel good about that. Then you started to have anxiety. You realized that wasn't a good thing.
That's right. The anxiety was not because of my lack of mentality. The anxiety was a trigger for me to match the emotional vibration in the dream up to real feelings that I've had and have an insight. Because in the dream, the anxiety was purely caused by my desire to keep all the merchandise. It was a selfish anxiety. It was not like, oh, this is wrong.
Oh.
Talking about my brother was a very good place to start. Why don't we talk about billionaires a little?
Okay.
So the reason that billionaires are a main focus of this dream is because I have been working in the context of a men's group for almost a year. And in that time, I've had some core insights about some of my biggest limitations, the things that hold me back from my joy. And one of them is having a really ingrained victim mentality. And the news headlines do not help.
Right.
It's really difficult now to not make oneself a victim because we are in a hyper-capitalist country where the gulf between those at the top of the pyramid and those of us forming the foundation of the pyramid is yawning wider and wider every year.
Well said.
Those are just facts.
Yes.
However, flying in the face of that actually has tremendous spiritual value. If you can find within yourself that seed of divinity and faith in the divine or in the goodness or in maybe just the abundance of the world around us, then you can experience abundance no matter what your circumstances are.
It's really hard to hold on to that sometimes.
Yes. And this dream is trying to help me understand that one of the biggest stumbling blocks that I've got is that on a daily basis, I reinforce a vision of myself as being a victim to forces beyond my control, that I can't get ahead because I'm being treated unjustly.
I think a lot of people can relate to that.
I know you're right. And I hope to be a small example of changing that over, say, the next year, because I am working on that. And this dream was a part of that because I had big realizations about some of my most limiting beliefs. This is the next action for me, is to try consciously to stop reinforcing my victim mentality and to be wildly optimistic, to not, and that isn't about winning the lottery. I just mean we're both people of faith. We believe that the universe is a good place. There are absolutely bad things that happen and very complex lessons and things that we don't understand, but no one can take away my inner freedom. I give it away. No one can take away my inner spirit of abundance. I surrender it. That's why billionaires. But see, the thing that's fascinating is these are super conscious aspects in this dream.
Yeah, why don't you tell our listeners about superconscious aspects again?
Yep.
It's good to have a reminder of what those are.
It is. So superconscious aspects are the only people that appear in our dreams that are not actually parts of us in a direct sense. They bring us a message about the way that we believe that the world works.
Yeah, it's a reflection of our beliefs.
It's a reflection of our beliefs about our highest ideals. And one of my highest ideals is that the universe is an abundant place. But this is a conflicting belief. And that conflicting belief is I'm overmastered by my economic overlords and I have no freedom, which is totally mistaken. And so there's another level of meaning to these billionaires, which is that they're the kind, generous people who brought my brother and I on this camping trip. They were being down to earth. They wanted us to have this experience. They were providing everything, soup to nuts, transportation all the way there. Wait, you think that's funny?
Soup to nuts. I
What's
don't even
funny
know
about
what that,
soup to nuts?
what that means.
Are you trying to say I'm old fashioned? I am old fashioned.
Yeah, I know.
So everything, right? All inclusive. Every little need was seen to. It was very generous. And so the way that I should be seeing this kind of belief that I have is abundance. The way that I am seeing it is lack. And so what that caused me to do is be reclusive and secretive and selfish and just try to exploit this situation to my advantage
Take as much as you can.
because I could get away with it.
Right.
Even though upon brief reflection while I was still sleeping, it was wrong. But I was just going about it. The whole dream was just me in this vivid store type environment, just going through every section from the sleeping bags and tents to all the small hardware that you might take, like fire starters and cookware, just like every little section and going through every rack and every display and every bin and just taking anything that I could remotely justify.
But there are things that you thought you might actually use.
Right. And so that's a great intimation of where this is all going, which is I used that as rationalization to justify what was essentially theft. I didn't go to these hosts and say, hey, would it be okay if I take some extra items for my personal use? I didn't say that, right? It was all under the flimsy ruse that it was like, I need this for this long weekend. I need
$1,000 worth of
I'm going to put on 10 North Face jackets and then I'm going to put a Patagonia on top of that. I'm going to put a parka on. Then I'm going to put on 3 pairs of down pants. Like Joey from Friends. You remember that scene where he puts on all of
Oh, yeah.
all Ross's clothes or what
No, it
Chandler's
was
clothes.
Chandler's
Puts on
clothes.
all Chandler's clothes. Yeah. So I guess the overriding point here is by playing it small with this egoic concept of lack, I missed everything. The billionaires are merely a pointer at something. What I actually have going on here is I'm starting through my self-development work to really get more concretely or more regularly in touch with the abundance of the universe. And I'm casting this pall over it of being like, no, like there might be abundance everywhere, but I got to get what I can right now because that abundance could go away tomorrow.
Yeah. So, how are you making these changes from your men's work that you've done through prayer, meditation? Like, what are the steps you're taking?
So I've been meditating in pretty early in the morning almost every single day. And I had gotten very lax about that for years. There were a few years that went by where I was like, yeah, I'm a meditator, but I would meditate like once a week for 15 minutes. I've been meditating like half an hour, 4 or 5 times a week, probably. And that's really helpful. I mean, no matter whether you think it helps or not, it actually does. And then I've been doing more journaling. I've been a lot more reflective. But I think the main difference in my men's work compared to other practices that I've done in the past is it's about holding myself accountable. I have some pretty cool beliefs. Like I have some beliefs that I think really are true about the universe around me when I can get out of my head and stay in my heart. But I live most of the time in my head.
So, what are those cool beliefs?
I believe that the universe is a place of benevolence and abundance.
Okay.
I have no doubt about that on a fundamental level. It's not a belief, it's knowing. I know that that's true, but I cloud it with beliefs.
So, did we talk about why the billionaires are super conscious aspects?
Oh, yeah, thank you, babe.
So, the reason they're super conscious aspects is because they are authority figures. And a lot of times that's how super conscious aspects show up as maybe doctors or policemen or lawyers or,
Even teachers sometimes.
yeah.
Yeah, you don't interpret them like other people in dreams. You think to yourself, what belief could this reflect? You can still do their qualities if you want, and that can help. But it's like, this isn't a part of me. It's like, what am I believing about the universe and the world around me? And in this case, of course, I'm believing that they're my economic overlords. But there was a countervailing image in this dream, which was that they were very generous, that they had opened their home, and that they were taking complete care of me. And that was where I realized this is actually like me having a completely mistaken set of beliefs. This is me getting in touch with the true abundance of the universe around me. And there's a Bible verse that has been inspiring me recently, which is usually paraphrased as saying that his eye is on the sparrow. It means that God takes care of all of his creatures, and that includes me. And so a good way to live is to not ruminate on where is my next meal coming from, where is my next tank of gas coming from, where is my clothing coming from, it will come. It's within just a few verses of the verse where it says, seek ye first the kingdom of heaven and all else will be added unto you. Mm-hmm. Those things are really close together in the Bible. And I think those concepts are very related philosophically.
I'm a little confused about these billionaires because generally we think being a billionaire is not a good idea. That there should not be billionaires, that things should be more equitable between all people. That there shouldn't be people who have so much wealth compared to most of us.
Yeah. No, I mean, in our waking life, I think that belief is appropriate. It's a little bit of a subtle idea, but they didn't need to be billionaires. The reason they were symbolized by billionaires in my dream is because of my mistaken belief. If I had had some huge awakening in my waking life, then in the beginning of the dream, they might have started off as billionaires, and then they might have transformed into Jesus Christ or Buddha, or they might have transformed into a pauper or like a hungry dog, and then I fed it if my beliefs had completely and radically shifted. They stayed billionaires so that I could start considering the possibility that I'm imposing this entire matrix-like set of beliefs on the world around me. If I had changed at a fundamental level instead of just starting to make these changes, then they would have changed. In the dream, they would have transformed into a totally different energy.
So you had this dream so that you could really see what your beliefs are so you could do something about them.
Yeah, and this is another good occasion for us to talk about how helpful emotional vibrations are in dreams. And there's two ways that emotions can work. The one, I'll just touch on very briefly, is really cool to me. I mean, everything about the language of dreams is so elegant. Sometimes we have an emotional response in a symbolic dream to a moral injury that we have done to ourselves. So if we feel a strong sense of disgust in a dream, if we really search our hearts and search our waking experience from the previous couple of days, we may have done something that at the time we just kind of let it roll off our back. But now we're realizing, wow, like that was really not who I am. That was a really bad decision. I'm surprised at myself that I did that. And then you can feel that disgust when you're asleep, when you're ready to really face that on a soul level.
Right.
But the other way they can work, and the way that they work in this dream, is that you can feel an emotion so that you will recognize what caused this dream in your waking life, because the emotions will match. And that's what happened in this dream. There was a point when my cart was level with merchandise that I stepped away for a minute, and there wasn't even anybody else in this bunker or store thing, but I still got nervous that somebody might take my merchandise.
Oh.
Yeah. And then I felt this distinct closing of my heart chakra, which I recognize from waking life, because it happens to me on a regular basis. It's not a tight closing. It's very subtle. But the dream was trying to give me information and be like, hey, when you close that way, the reason you're feeling that subtle anxiety or whatever is you're closing yourself off to life. You're feeling like I have to get what's mine and protect it from everyone around me, or something bad will happen. Whereas what I was really doing is I was rationalizing, not being transparent, not being honest, being sneaky. These are all things that I might do in waking life in different contexts. And it's showing me they're all part of the same negative influence on myself. And that essentially the whole dream is trying to say, it's time to take conscientious steps to moving towards fear and just doing it anyway and being like, this is not how I'm going to interact with someone, right? When I feel nervous about interacting with a student or an adult staff member, because, for example, I think that they might be too needy, like they're in a really needy place, just walk right up to them and be like, what do you need? Right? That's the gas, wine, and celebrities approach. That's like my brother. That's what we discussed in episode 1. So I'm still working on that 29 episodes later.
Just a couple of years.
And hopefully it's just a drop in the bucket wiser than I was when we started this podcast.
Oh, I think you're a lot wiser than you were 2 years ago. You've been working hard on yourself, and I congratulate you.
It's really sweet.
Yeah. You're willing to look at these things, which is big.
And I want to change them, right? Accountability is what is different for me, is being willing to say, this is not okay. And learning to have the maturity to not take that as a blow to my self-worth, because that's a big part of where this is all coming from. Lack of self-worth, lack of self-respect. It's all lack. And so instead, learning to just stand up and be like, this is what I feel like when I'm embodied in the parts of myself that are real and lasting. And I can say to myself, this is not acceptable behavior going forward without it being self-criticism per se. What I mean is, yes, it is self-criticism. It's like self-critique, but it's from a place of love for myself. That's the big magic key that I've learned from my men's work, is holding myself accountable.
Yeah. And that means not being a victim.
Absolutely. It's real easy for me to unconsciously go into a victim narrative in a lot of different spaces in my life or from a lot of different triggers. So I'm really working on stopping that. That's a great next step for me. And then I wanted to bring up this wisdom from Alan Watts that's been inspiring for me lately, which is he said, discipline is self-love. Because when you can hold yourself accountable in a way that is appropriate and fair, you are going to grow more into your true essence when you just constantly let yourself off the hook.
Haven't I been saying that to you for
14 years? Yes.
for a very long time?
Yes.
You'd rather hear it from Alan Watts.
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's fine.
It's not great.
No, it's getting the message. That's what's important.
Well, I ignored it from you for 14 years. That's not great.
Well,
That's what happens when you listen with your ego. Then you suppress things.
right.
Yep. And then sometimes suppression turns into repression. And I only recently learned the difference there.
So is that it?
Yeah, I think that pretty much wraps it up.
Well, congratulations on your discovery and your new way of being.
It's really sweet of you. I'm going to try to live up to that. In fact, I'm going to commit to living up to it.
Yeah, try is a word that we need to take out of our vocabulary, I think. You can find this podcast on all popular streaming services. Email us a dream today at contact@dreamspeak.us. Check out our YouTube channel for a free introductory dream course. Connect with DreamSpeak for even more learning. Our socials are in the description. Our theme music was composed by me, Rika. This podcast does not constitute medical advice. If you have concerns about your well-being, talk to your doctor or a mental health professional.